Alright, hello and welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing a digital piece of a Firefly, sort of a fun quick sketches here. So firstly I wanted to talk about the materials that I used. So I used my Huion H610PRO tablet. And that was the tablet that I used. And then I also used Krita, that is the program that I was using for this painting. I really love using Krita. I've used a version of Photoshop before to draw in, as well as other painting programs, but Krita just works really well for me. It's also really nice. It's open source. It's free. So it's really fun to work with, and I enjoy using it. So, yep, those are all for the materials that I used. Not much there because it's digital today. So that's the materials. Next, I want to move on to a discussion about the artwork that I'm doing today, and then a little bit later on, kind of talk about a little bit about bioluminescence, which is what fireflies use to light up in the dark. So, yep. So for this artwork, right now you can see I'm doing some sort of warm-up sketches that I was doing to get a little bit more better acquainted, let's say, with the shape of the firefly, so I could really understand the anatomy and how it worked and how it functioned. So yeah, there were sort of warm-ups and also practice to understand it a little bit better. And then I also, for the final art piece of the final painting of the firefly, I also did a sketch in this sort of same style as I'm doing here with these little miniature sketches. I did that with a larger version that I then painted on top of, and then that sort of brings us to the method of what I was doing. So I put color blocks down really, and then I added the shadows and stuff and blended those together sort of in a semi-blended style. So I didn't entirely smooth it out, but I did a little bit, which is a little bit different from what I usually do when doing my digital art. So that was a little bit of an experiment there. I did enjoy it though, but it did sort of result in a more simplistic style than I'm used to usually. So it didn't take as long as I'm sometimes used to art pieces taking. So it was probably the whole piece from beginning to end probably took about 2 hours, maybe 2.5, which is actually pretty quick for a digital sketch for me personally. So yeah, that's oh, and then also sort of my favorite part about this whole piece is the glowing part of the firefly, and I really love doing glow effects especially in digital art. It's really enjoyable to sort of have that glowing on the outside and sort of inner glow as well. It's really fun to paint, so I really did enjoy that part, and it's kind of why I wanted to draw a firefly, paint a firefly, because I knew I could make that look really cool in digital form. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say about the artwork there. Now on to the bioluminescence. So firstly, the sort of definition of bioluminescence is the production and the emission of light by a living organism, and that light is produced through a sort of chemical reaction. And I also found out it's a really interesting fact is that this chemical reaction doesn't actually have to take place within a cell. It can also be outside, external. So that's kind of interesting, I found. Then in addition to that, let's talk about the actual reaction itself. So it's this chemical called luciferin that reacts with oxygen as well as ATP, which is sort of the main fuel energy source for a cell, and calcium. So all those react together to form this light, which is really interesting. And then also sometimes the reaction uses an enzyme catalyst to speed up the reaction. So that's kind of interesting. I did find the idea of the catalyst really interesting because when you see a firefly, it's blinking very rapidly, and somehow that light has to be produced really quickly in a large quantity and then somehow be quickly shut off to allow the whole blinking sequence to happen. So yeah, the idea of the catalyst was fascinating to me. So then I learned some facts just about bioluminescence in general. For instance, like most of the organisms in the deep, deep ocean have some sort of bioluminescence, which is really interesting. And then there are lots of different reasons for having some sort of bioluminescence. For example, it could be to attract food to them, like especially in the deep ocean, like the anglerfish has this little bioluminescent sort of like bait on the end of its sort of like a fishing rod thing that it uses to attract food to it so that it can eat that. Then there's also bioluminescence in order to attract a mate, and that's definitely what fireflies do it for. They're trying to find the mate, and it's only the males that do that, and the females sort of just find the males that are doing the blinking. Then this was a really interesting reason for bioluminescence that I found. It could be to hide from other animals that might want to eat them, which like I was like, what? How does that help them hide? Because it would be glowing. And it turns out they can use it as, it's called counter illumination. So like if a fish is being looked at upwards from like underneath it, it will appear dark while the water above it is really lightened by the sunlight. So then the fish's shadow underneath it appears dark. So instead what it can do is provide this bioluminescence to light itself up so that it doesn't stand out to the fish and stuff that would want to eat it. So that was really, really interesting to me. Another thing that it could be used for is to distract, and one way that I found out that some animals use it to distract is this sort of bioluminescence bomb, I would say, that they sort of throw out as like a decoy to distract so that they could get away, kind of like how an octopus will like ink in the water, but it would be glowing, so it's a little different there. So that was really interesting. So then what I have to say about fireflies specifically is that they flash to attract a mate. I already said that. But additionally, every single species of the fireflies have a different flash pattern so that they don't get confused between different species. They always are able to identify the right type of firefly that they want to go mate with. And then additionally, I found out that the light that the fireflies produce is like some of the most efficient kind of light in the entire world, which is really interesting a lot of light is also paired with heat. So when the light is being emitted, it is also, the power source is also emitting heat, which makes it very low efficiency. But the fireflies don't have as much of a problem with that. So they are able to be very efficient with it, which means they don't have to use too much energy to produce so bright a light that you can see them flashing out way in the forest. And so yeah, I found that really interesting and really fascinating. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about fireflies, and I hope you enjoyed watching me paint this firefly. I really enjoyed doing it. It was a pretty fun piece. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and until next time, live life respectfully. Bye.